You're listening to LeaderCast, episode 156. Welcome to LeaderCast, Transforming Missions podcast with Tim Bias and Sarah Thomas, providing you with insights and resources you need to lead a movement of Jesus followers.
There's an expectation in hope, right? There's the expectation that God's going to make true on his word and that he's already doing that. He's already accomplishing that. And that what we're having to do in the meantime is hold on to him in the middle of the storm because the storm's not over yet.
Today we're having a conversation with Julie Richards. Julie is a trauma therapist, and we have a conversation about holding space for deep conversation. We talk about a healing journey. We talk about tenacity, about continuing to keep going even when things are difficult, and how, as a therapist, she offers hope to people and creates a space for people to experience hope. All as we're having a conversation about leading people and helping them to experience trust, stability, compassion, and hope. So you are in for a treat today. Let me remind you that you can find show notes for this episode, episode 156, at transformingmission.org/podcast. Now, without any further wait, here's our conversation with Julie Richards.
Well, welcome, Julie, to LeaderCast.
Thank you.
Would you tell us who you are and what you get paid to do?
Who I am and how do we separate that from what we do, right? So who am I as Julie? I am a Christ follower. I am someone who loves and lives deep. And that's such a good question. Like, you could really take that question for a little while and just reflect on it. But I am in the roles I'm in. I'm a wife. I'm a mom to 4 young adult, adolescent children. And what I'm paid to do is I am a trauma therapist that helps people heal.
Thank you. We've not had any trauma therapists on podcast up to this point, so this is good for me. I'm going to take advantage of you. We ask the same question with everyone. It's really the first question. What does being a disciple of Jesus mean to you?
I think I like going back to the Old Testament. Love the Lord your God with all your heart, soul, mind, and strength. And then when Jesus added to that, and love others the way you love yourself. So loving God, loving others, I think that is an enormous task in our culture today and what that looks like, because people are really tangled up in lots of different opinions and directions that they take that. So whenever I think of a disciple, I think of a learner, I think of a follower, I think of someone who connects into that relationship with Jesus, that I would say Jesus is the reason why I'm alive today. And I've been learning and growing in my understanding of what it means that he loves me. And I've been raised in the church, and so I know a lot of church answers to things. And my kids, who are now young adults, are at that point where they kind of have the courage to question a lot, and things that I wish that I would have questioned sooner. But that's what it takes me back to, is like my roots of that there's a God of love and he loves me, not just all of the church answers of what that looks like or the complexities of scripture, which are enormous. So that's what it means to me.
Part of the work that we do, and Sarah certainly, is around Clifton's strengths. So using what you've just said, I'm guessing that you would affirm the fact that all of us are are uniquely created by God, and in that creation we have different ways that we see the world, act in the world, strengths, gifts, skills, abilities. So working with Clifton's strengths, we know that you have, well, you can name your strengths. What are they?
And the ones that I agree with more and the ones that I don't. That's what I look at, like, how did they come up with these? Which I asked Sarah too, like, should I be retaking these? Because she said, no, pretty much they stay congruent, which I find interesting. But so mine are achiever, learner, relator, harmony, and intellection.
So since you have already brought it up, which of these would you say disagree with as much as agree with?
I think it's funny that connector didn't pop up on here because I find meaning in so many things, and I find connections in things in ways that I think is very related to me being a very deep person. So that one surprised me that it didn't pop up. I think harmony is funny. I do think I want to bring about a place of peace for people, but I don't have a sense of like avoiding conflict, and maybe so it could be too like how you frame or understand what they're trying to say in it. But I would say that I am someone who would do the deep work of bringing about the work of peace and healing, and not someone who like doesn't want it. And so maybe using the word harmony, I feel like I guess I could go into a whole talk about what harmony means to me too. And this is the problem that you've got when you're working with somebody who's really deep and finds meaning. Like we could take any one of these trails and I could probably explore it and expand on it. I do think intellection is a funny thing because it sounds to me very like that I don't know. It just sounds a little left-brained a little bit to me. I do appreciate, I will say that I'm not someone at interactions. I am a pastor's wife. And so, when you go to different events that you don't really know people, I'm not someone for small talk. And so if there's a deep conversation, I would probably resonate more with that than I would. I don't really know how to answer like shallow things or stay on topics that I can't relate or connect with. So the introvert in me kind of goes a little bit back and doesn't really, but I don't know that I see it as like intellection, like, oh, it has to be a really smart concept that we're talking about. It just has to have meaning for me. So I guess that meaning thing is something that is really strong in me and maybe surprised me that it didn't show up.
So hearing you say that, Julie, and I feel like I say this to everyone that we have these conversations with, but I truly mean it. Part of what I love about having these conversations and what I've done as a coach is listening to people talk about your lived experience. And then part of what I'm hearing for you, that relator talent theme and the intellection theme, it's all about you going deep. That's what I'm hearing you say, that like, forget this surface stuff. You're not going to, if you're at a party, you're not going to work the room. You're going to find that person that you can have a deep conversation with. And I'm going to say this, and I don't think that this is truly you, but who cares who else is in the room? If you're in the midst,
kind of get swept away.
Yeah, you get, and that's where you find meaning and purpose in your life. It's not the surface. Whereas the other talent theme that I contrast the relator theme with is woo. They're working the room. They're the one at the party that is going and having all of the conversations. With that in mind, let me offer to our listeners Gallup's definition of relator. And I think you just heard from Julie a piece of this that she resonates with. And I think you'll also hear as we have more conversations, there's parts of it that she doesn't resonate with. And that's why these wonderful tools are tools. They're not, they're not specifically designed for each one of us. They're designed for many of us. So here's what Gallup says about relator. People exceptionally talented in the relator theme enjoy close relationships with others. They find deep satisfaction in working hard with friends to achieve a goal. You are comfortable with intimacy. Once the initial connection has been made, you deliberately encourage a deepening of the relationship. You want to understand their feelings, their goals, their fears, their dreams, and you want them to understand yours. You know that this kind of closeness implies a certain amount of risk. Now, all of that doesn't apply to every person that might have this on their top 5. This is actually one of my top 5, and pieces of that I read it and I'm like, yeah, no, don't think so. So for those that are listening, that's okay. That's a part of this work. The other piece of what Gallup has offered to us as we think about our work in the life of the local church and how we live out our faith as followers of Jesus is they've identified 4 needs that people who follow leaders have. And those needs are building trust and showing compassion, providing stability, and offering hope. And the beautiful thing that Tim and I get to experience, and people who listen to the podcast get to experience, is hearing leaders do that in their unique ways. And so as we continue our conversation about leaders and being a leader, the definition that we're working with is anyone who takes responsibility for recognizing the potential in people and or processes and has the courage to develop that potential. And that's actually not our definition. That's a definition that comes from Brené Brown. So Julie, thinking about who you are and who God has created you to be in this season of your life, we'd like to have a little bit of a conversation around those 4 needs of followers with you. And I think Tim's going to get us started with.
Julie, the first question is around building trust. How do you maintain and build trust with others?
I think that an important part of building trust is safety and consistency and getting a sense that you want to take an interest in someone and care for them as who they uniquely are and not what you expect them to be or think that they are, but that you're able to. A lot of the work that I like to do is with attachment. And so part of that is helping people feel seen and heard and understood and welcomed in this world. So I think those dynamics create safety and build trust. And that if I'm willing, as Brené Brown talks about, showing up, if I'm there to show up with my best self and be consistent and trustworthy, then that allows them to feel more safe with me and to feel like that they are being seen and known for who they are. So I think those things build trust.
Now, I'm sure I already know the answer to this question, but just a follow-up question to that. Do you do that because you are a professional counselor or therapist, or is that just who you are?
I think it's very much who I am and what is really needed in the world for us to be able to be present with people and care for people. The fact that I get to be a trauma therapist is a huge joy and honor, and I love holding that space with people. But I think I would be doing that whether I have a job or I don't have a job, or even if that weren't my career. But it's so linked into who I am as a person. It's like I was made for this.
That would have been my guess.
So you may have already touched on this one, and so maybe you can come at it in a different angle. What's fueling that compassion that we're hearing from you?
You know, one of the things that Max Lucado talked about in Outliving Your Life is asking the question, what language do you speak that other people don't know how to speak? And the language that I speak is pain. and suffering. And I really deeply resonate with the need for compassion and comfort and support for people who are hurting. And I think the work that I've done in my own story to explore and heal and continue to dive into, I think as long as we're on this earth, there's more for us to learn. There's my learner coming out, like I love to learn. And so that includes learning about healing and about trauma and about suffering and about how to help support people so that they can heal. So what fuels it, I think, is my own journey of how deeply I needed that personally. And I resonate with people who are also looking for that in the world. That's kind of, I think, a large reason why God put me on this earth, was to show up in those places.
So listening to you, how do these relationships and your interaction with people provide deep fulfillment and stability for you?
For me, I think being connected to our purpose and understanding why we're here, what is unique about us, that gives us a sense of connection and a drive. I have a very strong, tenacious fighter inside of me. So I don't give up easily. And that is likely a large reason why I am still here, that God put that fire in my soul to keep fighting, keep learning, keep healing, keep growing. I think that provides me, just his wiring of me provides me a lot of tenacity and stability. I keep coming back to that. Like if I want to find a connection for why am I on this earth, that really resonates with me. That will help me through, is to keep learning, keep healing, keep growing. Yeah. Does that answer what you're looking for there?
Well, it certainly does. And I'm guessing, and now I'm projecting, to do that with a professional therapist projection.
Yeah, it's kind of like saying an inside joke or something. And I'll be like, oh, okay. So is that conscious for you or unconscious? No, I'm just kidding. Go ahead.
I'm guessing that the stability you're able to help others step into grows out of that for you.
For sure.
Yeah, go ahead. For
sure. I mean, I'm so thankful for how God wired me. Like there are parts of me that, in doing trauma work, we often help people resource and to find things that really resonate, that can be kind of brought to mind and heart whenever we're doing the hard work of healing trauma. And a couple of my kind of images that come up for me are Harriet Tubman, and that she would keep going back to bring more people into freedom. And she bled and hurt and struggled and was tenacious and said, I'm bringing more people to freedom. And so I think when I get weary on how we keep going on this journey, it is so hard. And I find that so often with folks that I am working with to support in their healing journey. It's this, I want to give up. It's too hard. I can't keep going. And that fighter in me kind of stirs up, of like Harriet Tubman. I even have playlists and, and also Rey and Star Wars. I'll just tell you that she's a really amazing warrior too. But these images of women who are willing to be hurt and fight hard so that someone else can live. And it's not kind of like a codependent, I'm taking care of everybody else and not myself. It's more of I've been down this road and I know the pathway through it. So I'm here to help. And we're going to a better place. We're going to a place of freedom, a place that you can feel at home and connected and cared for. And that makes life worth living. So I think I provide that stability out of that connection with my own story and what I've needed, and a lot of times didn't get. Wish I had, but I didn't. And so I had to find that in adulthood and my healing journey. And And I think that kind of commitment to my own path, as well as caring for others on theirs, provides enormous depth and stability for folks.
Part of what I'm hearing you talk about, Julie, is you offer hope to people. And that tenacious part of you that keeps going, that I'm hearing you talk about. I'm putting words in your mouth again. I'm putting words in a therapist's mouth. Hello. That's just a part of who you are. And so I'm thinking of the season that we're living in of, pandemics surrounding us, and the work that you do as a professional therapist. Can you say a little bit more about how you help someone experience hope?
I will tell you, it's enormously difficult, to be honest, because I am on the same path. I am a human being too. And so I would love to say that that's something that is some kind of, well, maybe I wouldn't love to say it because it's not easy and it's not light, right? I mean, this is how I'm wired, is there's depth in that question. I like the acronym that I've heard before for HOPE, which is hold on, pain ends. And that there's a sense of going through something. Scripturally, one of my favorite portions that God used in my life in going through hard times was Isaiah 43, and going through the water, going through the fire. Like, that doesn't imply that we're allowed just out of it to just say, oh, it was good, we got through that. It's like there's enormous difficulty and suffering, and God brings us through. And so I guess one of the things I do to help encourage hope in others is I tell them it's okay if you have to borrow from me. like you might not have hope right now, because sometimes we don't feel it. We don't, I find a lot of beauty in God's creation, in the flowers, in the trees, in the color, in the enormous detail that he gives to things, and in the moon, and all these things remind me that God is still here. God is with us. God is in the midst with us. And I see my role as needing to show up right in the middle of the mess with everybody that I'm trying to support, that they're hurting, but I know the pathway through it. And not because I put any emphasis at all on myself, because I always, especially if it's a person of faith, I mean, I don't put my faith on someone who is not coming to me for Christian perspective or counseling in that regard. But I know who the healer is, and I know that he is even more wildly tenacious than I am, and that he will not give up on us, and that he is still at work, and he is going to bring us through it. And so sometimes I just say, borrow from me while you need to, and we're going to get through this. We're going to get through it. And it sometimes really is hard. And that's what, and I think, a part of hope has to be, for it to be something deep, it has to be that it can acknowledge reality. And it's not superficial, fluffy, just give a platitude to that, or some kind of light encouragement or something. I think that would dodge the whole issue, and it wouldn't really have the capacity to hold how hard times can be enormously difficult. So I think hope is acknowledging that reality of how hard it is, and holding with that the paradox that the pain will end, and we are getting through it, and we are not alone in that. And for those who have faith in God, we know that God is with us, and that brings us through. And for those who don't have faith in God, I'm kind of a tangible reminder that's incarnationally giving them a sense that they are not alone in this world, and that we were not created to walk alone. So showing up to be a support and be in it with them, that brings hope.
What we say is that hope's not wishful thinking.
Right.
And that's part of what I'm hearing. And really, to help people with hope, another way we've talked about it, Sarah helped me with this, is that we help people have agency to be able to negotiate whatever the barriers are, whatever the pain might be, to be able to come out on the other end. And that's what I'm hearing you say. At least I'm taking what you've said to affirm what we do. So I appreciate it. Thank you.
There's an expectation in hope, right? There's the expectation that God's going to make true on his word and that he's already doing that. He's already accomplishing that. And that what we're having to do in the meantime is hold on to him in the middle of the storm, because the storm's not over yet.
That's wonderful. Thank you.
I can surely speak to how I'm celebrating what God's doing in my life. I would say in the past 3 months, it's really in the past week. I just turned 50, and there has been an enormous amount of gratitude to God for what he's been doing in my life, and not letting those milestones and here it comes the lessons I've been learning through my life. Like, I am so thankful for what he's taught me and what he has shaped me with. And I think really what I'm celebrating right now, very currently, is not letting those moments go by unnoticed or unrecognized or uncelebrated. One of the things that resonates for me in scripture is the story of the 10 lepers. And there was one that came back to say thank you. And I have felt like that leper, and I'm the one that is wanting to make sure that I pause and make sure. So I made a playlist of different songs that are meaningful to me, and I'm reflecting on 50 things that I've learned about myself and about things that I'm grateful for. Just that resonance of celebration, I think, is really important to have that awareness, and spending time in that matters, because life can get really busy and cluttered and congested, and we can miss all that. And I think those are the things that have so much meaning and so much deep resonance for us that I want to be celebrating and remembering and reflecting. So that's kind of the mode I'm in currently. And then in private practice, I just celebrated 1 year of going out on my own. And that's very nostalgic of like, wow, God has been preparing me for this for a lifetime. And just seeing what he's doing in me and through me is just overflows me with so much gratitude that I get to do what I do. I'm so thankful.
Well, I don't know how recent the birthday was, but happy belated birthday.
Thanks. It feels like a banner one. Like, this is significant. Half a century is a long time. Like, I've been a marathon runner here, like, and I don't like running at all. So the fact that I've been hanging in there and growing and healing as a survivor is a beautiful, amazing, life-giving thing to me. I feel so like it doesn't really feel like a birthday. Like, it feels more like an enormous milestone of gratitude and joy and meaning. So it's been fun.
Well, are you ready for what we call our rapid fire questions? These are
I'm very curious.
These are 10
And how
quick...
do you ask a deep thinker quick questions?
I know, that's
I don't know if my brain can catch up that fast, but I'm going to do my best.
I'm thinking, okay, she's going to hate every single one of these questions. So I'll apologize in advance, because there's nothing deep about any. Well, there might be one question.
I just hope I know the answer. So.
Oh, I think you will.
Okay.
Tim, you want to get us started?
Yes, Julie, as you start the day, what's your morning beverage of choice?
Vanilla chai. I don't get it very often, but if I got that, I'd be pretty excited. That's a good day. But I do start with a cup of tea often.
Finally, we have someone who's not saying coffee.
Yeah, I gave up coffee for the most part. I drink it occasionally, but yeah, stepped away from that a bit.
What is your favorite or go-to Bible verse?
I really like that Isaiah 43 passage. I have a handful of different ones that you know what the amazing thing is, and I guess rapid fire doesn't allow time for stories with things,
You're
so that's
fine.
probably
Go
problematic.
For it.
But going through the seasons of storm and suffering, I felt like scripture just came to life for me. So all of the imagery and metaphor and amazing things just took on whole new meaning for me. Like I could spend a day just sharing scriptures with you of things that resonate so deeply with me. But if I had to answer the quick one, I would say Isaiah 43.
So it sounds like another podcast. So we'll have to interview again. What's your favorite season and why?
Honestly, I'm going to cheat and say I really love all of them. Like, because I love that living in Ohio, people give Ohio a bad rap. Like, I think it's kind of cool that we get to have all 4 seasons. I don't think I would feel quite as content if I didn't have the changing of the seasons. So actually, I see beauty in all 4 of them and things I appreciate about all 4 of them.
This is the one that might be the deep thinker. What do people misunderstand about you?
Ooh. I guess over the course of my life, I would say that I probably look like I am together and high functioning, and people see me as strong. And I very much believe that I am, but it came at a cost. And I don't think there are very few people that know how much my heart has hurt and bled. And so I think I feel misunderstood maybe in that. And, not everybody likes to do this work. And so sometimes someone like me is exhausting to someone. They're like, oh my gosh, can you just give the quick, easy answer like that? Like they just want to get on with their tasks of their day and cross off something on their list. And I'm more like, let's sit with that. Like, let's reflect and explore a little more, which is why I'm the kind of trauma therapist that I am. I explore with people.
What's one of the last things you read?
Oh my goodness. Tim, if you could see my nightstand or my office, I am surrounded by books that I'm underlining, highlighting, and never just one at once. So I'm in about 50 probably. So I love reading about trauma and how to heal. And so I just have an enormous amount. And I probably have good book recommendations for people that are wanting a certain thing. I don't know which one I would land on if I had to pick one, except to say that I wish I had more time to just sit with my books sometimes. I'm Hermione. So I love to just surround myself in that, and the learner in me just comes out.
What is your favorite vacation spot or a place to relax?
Oh my goodness. Okay, so this is a little convicting because I am not good at taking vacations. So my vacation spot would be probably somewhere in nature with either mountains or woods or a lake. I love to relax in a hammock. I feel like that's a very calming feeling to be held by a hammock. But I did have a really fun vacation. It was several years back. I need to have another one. But my husband and I had a bit of a spontaneous trip to San Francisco together to celebrate our 25th anniversary. And that was just fun. Like, he took care of all the stressors and I just enjoyed it. And that was a big deal because we don't really take many vacations. So we talk about where we want to go and we need to follow through better. But yeah. These questions aren't very rapid fire, are they? Because I just keep talking and exploring with it more.
It's all good.
I think you've already answered this one. What brings you joy these days?
Oh my goodness. I have so much joy. I think from gratitude and finding meaning. I find so much joy in the colors of the trees. And in nature, I always find joy. I have a great moon story of how God spoke to me through the moon. So every time I see the moon, I know that he loves me and that he sees me. And I never fail to be just completely swooned by God when I see the moon. Like, that's how much that one means to me. I find joy in seeing my kids growing and developing and becoming their own person. I find joy in watching people change and heal and grow that are on a journey that they feel like they're not going to make it. And then suddenly they start to see the progress that they're like, man, oh my goodness, that just sends me to like such joy. Like, yes, they thought they weren't going to make it and they're changing and they're healing and they're growing. So that brings me enormous joy.
Ready for the last one? What is your favorite part of Christmas?
I love, more so than Christmas itself, I love Advent. I love the month. I love seeing it as a time of reflection and lights and prayer and connection, time with family, traditions that we've had to be flexible with and change, which is challenging. But I appreciate the season itself has so much beauty and meaning. I mean, the whole concept that Jesus came and that he showed up in the midst of this crazy world and that God is with us. Like, you want to know how to find hope? Like, he comes right into the middle of the mess and he is here with us. Like, that is an enormous gift. And that is probably the best part of Christmas.
Thank you, Julie. Thank you for taking a part of your day to be with us and to share with folks your heart and what you do so well, because it's who God created you to be. So thank you for sharing your hope and your love for Jesus with us today. Any last minute words that you would like to share with our listeners? I just asked a deep thinker if there's anything.
Oh my goodness. Wow. I liked the words that you said, actually, Sarah, on the keep going. This life is really hard. It is really hard. So find your people of safe support and keep showing up. And really that starts with getting to know our own healing journey and being kinder to ourselves and finding compassion for ourselves and seeing how God wants to use that to change our life. And then from there, from that deep well, we can pour out for other people. But if we're not connected to ourselves or to what God's doing in us, then we've got to disconnect. So I encourage your listeners to go there and find people who will lovingly support and come alongside them so they don't have to go there alone.
Amen.
Julie, you've been a gift to me today, and I know you've been a gift to the listeners. So I'm grateful that you've taken the time to be with us. Honestly, you've been a conduit of hope and joy in the way that you've been sharing with us, and I'm grateful. Thank you.
Thank you so much for having me. It's a joy to be with you guys.
I told you were in for a treat. So here are my 2 questions for you today. The first one I hope is fun. Julie mentioned in our conversation that she's in the process of naming 50 things that she has learned about herself. So here's my challenge to you. However old you are, I want you to name that many things that you have learned about yourself. That doesn't have to happen in the next 5 minutes. That can happen over the next week and can happen over the next month. What have you learned about yourself? And identify as many of those things as you are old. The second question, what in your life right now do you need to be reminded to keep going because God is with you? As a reminder, you can find show notes for this episode at transformingmission.org/podcasts. Look for episode 156. Now go lead a movement of Jesus followers. Bye for now.